Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to generate random whole numbers within a range. Instead of generating a random number between 0 and a given number like we did before, we can generate a random number that falls within a range of two specific numbers. To do this, we'll define a minimum number min and a maximum number max. Here's the formula we'll use. Take a moment to read it and try to understand what this code is doing. Math.floor, meaning okay, let's start in the inside. We want a random number between 0 and 1 times the max minus the min plus 1. So we're multiplying it by the difference between the max and the minimum, and then we're adding 1. So instead of being 0 to 9, we're 1 to 10 type thing. And then we're adding that, we're rounding that down to the ground, and then we're adding that to the minimum. So the minimum number, say we had 5 and 10. Max is 10. The minimum is 5. So we get 5 here. So we make this 6. And then we multiply this random number between 0 and 1 times 6. And that gives us a number between 1 and 6. And then we add that to the minimum. And that way we get the minimum is 5. So 6 plus 5 is 11. And that gets us the range. And 11 wouldn't actually be hit, but 10 would, because that's the range of the numbers. So we want to create a function called random range that takes a range, my min, and my max, and returns a random number that's greater than or equal to my min and is less than or equal to my max inclusively. Well, this is pretty awesome. I mean, they basically lay this out to you because you can just do an implicit return. So you want, let's start off with just math.random. I'm going to do this slowly just so we can kind of console log out the random range, and then we can just say 1 through 9. And so right now we should random range, my min. Okay, cool. So right now we're getting a random range. But really what it's doing, we're calling random range, it's coming in here. We're saying 1 through 9. But what's really going on is we're just returning a random decimal number. So what we want to do is make that better. So, well, what do we want to do? We want to multiply that. We want to multiply this decimal point by, the maximum number, which is passed in, and the second variable. And we want to do that minus the minimum number, which is passed in as the first variable. Now, if we were to just do this, we would get a range that would look almost right, but the problem is that we wouldn't be between 1 and 9. We'd be between 0 and 8. So we want to add 1 to this. Cool. And so now when we run this, we actually want this guy to be in here because we want this number to be multiplied by by the collection of these three things. And now what the problem with this is that we're getting this crazy decimal number, and if we were to assign this to a single number, it wouldn't give us proper feedback, so we need to round it down. And to do that, we wrap this in a math.floor situation method, and that will get us more appropriate numbers. Random range, math.floor. Cool. And so now we're getting a random number in between 1 and 9. If we keep calling it again by just having the browser refresh, we see that we're getting all sorts of different runs. I think this will pass the test. Cool. It doesn't pass the test. The lowest random number that can be generated by random range should be equal to the minimum number. So the minimum number. So in this example, for the range. Oh, okay. So the problem with this is that we're getting the range. This whole thing needs to be plus my min. because we're trying to return the number. So if our range is between 15 and 20, we want our feedback to be anywhere between 15 and 20. There we do. There's a 20. 18. Yeah, there's a few numbers in there, but 20 is working. So my guess is that the test will pass now. What was happening in the last one is I was getting the range, but I wasn't adding it to the minimum, which means I was getting the number between, say, 0 and 5 when I needed it to be 15 and 20. So to do that, I had to add the 5 back in. Yeah, and so that's the way this one works. It might be a little confusing, but it's very useful, and this kind of stuff is used very often in programming. So if you don't understand this, I would suggest resetting it and keep doing this until you can do it over and over again yourself without even watching this video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lesson.